Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Rebecca Rylands. She is a clinical counselor who specializes in trauma-informed care and perinatal mental health and offers a therapeutic drumming program. She's also a near-death experience survivor, which happened during the birth of her first child. In this episode, we'll discuss what she saw, how it changed her, and how it informed her approach to healing others. Rebecca, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Johnny.
So the near-death experience, it was a medical emergency during the birth of your first child, correct?
Yes. People who go into birth don't expect that they will have a lot of blood loss. I had a birth plan and I hoped that things would go well. My daughter was born. I was very happy and elated in that moment. We had skin to skin contact. All looked like it was going okay. It had been quite a long labor. We were in a hospital setting. And then some things just started happening in the hour or so afterwards that I thought we were done with birth. But then the midwife and some other medical staff realized that there was a lot of blood loss still happening and that I wasn't delivering the placenta how one should afterwards. So very quickly things escalated into, we're going to need to take you into theatre and say goodbye to your partner. And off I was wheeled into theatre and I was expected to come back in an hour or so. And then after a lot more blood loss, I can recall being on the operating table. They said, oh, look, we're not going to be able to keep you awake with this experience. You're losing a lot of blood. You're losing consciousness. We'll put you to sleep kind of thing. So that was the next thing I remembered happening.
Before this happened, was there anything unusual that you noticed before the experience?
I suppose it had been a very surreal few days leading up to the actual birth. I'd thought I was in labor. We'd visited the hospital and checked things out. They said, no, go home. So it had been a long few days of feeling contractions or what I thought were contractions. So I was very tired by the time that the birth actually happened. Being a peak experience, my first child, I'd just become a mother, and then having things spiral downward in terms of risk was a bit scary in those moments. I had supportive people there, my husband and a doula, and also two grandparents, my mother and my mother-in-law had arrived after the baby was born. So everyone was looking after the baby and going, isn't she lovely? And then there was this, oh, am I not okay? This isn't quite done yet, to just hang out, get to know my baby.
During the experience, whenever that started, it was a stillness and detachment. What was that like?
Yeah, so the actual when I knew that I was slipping out of consciousness, they were putting in an epidural. You have to sort of sit upright for this needle to go in your back. And they were trying this, and I could sense the doctors saying, it's not going in right. We're starting to lose her. There was this talking about me as though I wasn't in the room. And then they said, we're going to try it on your side. They tried it again and I was on my side. And then noticing almost this kind of panic around me, yet I felt a stillness. And then the anaesthetist came in, who was a lovely lady, who said, we are going to have to put you to sleep. But before she even began putting me to sleep, like I knew it was life or death starting. And from there, I can recall going to sleep, hearing things still, and then also when I woke up, the first sense that I gained was my hearing, so I could hear things before I knew what had really happened. And again, I could hear people discussing me, but it was like, is that me that they're talking about? And kind of almost seeing the scene from above, shall we say, that out-of-body experience.
Out-of-body, okay. Now, during the experience, you had anesthesia or whatever they did to you to induce that state. Did you flatline?
No, in that experience, I don't have records of flatlining, so it was very, very close. And it's like a sliding doors moment, I suppose, that there is a possibility that you're going to the other side. Me feeling a deep sense that this is not the right time for me to go. However, it would have been okay for me to go, which is interesting, being detached, at peace with it, calm, almost like a biological fulfillment. I'd given birth to the next generation. Maybe I'm not needed. This is okay. You could go now. But then a sense that, no, not yet. There's still work to do in this lifetime.
At that moment, and perhaps slightly after, did you notice anything else, any beings or things like that?
I suppose it was a sense of a warm and welcoming light. It sounds cliche, but, having this, you can come towards this. I'm here, I will keep you safe. Whoever that voice was, or a sense of a being, I don't have like a picture for it other than a warmth and a light, that this is okay. You can come towards this. I will look after you. And then I suppose in terms of any other people I may feel that I saw or connected with, it was like time was circular, that there have been other women who have possibly died in these situations, and this is what it would be like for them to go at that moment. You've just given birth, there's new life on the earth, and that being life starting and also life ending, and how it could be so hard for the people still alive. My husband, to look after a baby on his own, I'm sure would be very difficult, but I had a sense he'll be fine. He could find somebody else. Like, there was all of this reasoning going on in my mind that this could be a fine time to go.
When you were feeling these things during the experience, were you aware of what the surgeons were doing? You were out, correct?
Yeah. So what happened was they had the plan and had told me and my partner, we're going to keep you awake so that we can get you back to your baby as quickly as possible. You'll just be numb from the tummy down or whatever, and we can do this, and you'll be back to the ward very quickly. And then as I realized that wasn't going to be the plan, as everyone was starting to panic in the theater, I could sense, okay, this is going differently. And what is going on? What do I need to do? And I felt a sense that just surrender. There was a lot of other things I wanted to almost control in my birth plan, which I look back and go, this is nature. You can't control this. So I let go. And then there is a blank. I don't know what happened particularly in surgery until I heard reports about it afterwards from my medical team. And then I can go, that makes sense to me. And then the first thing I remember hearing and going, is this me they're talking about, was they needed to put an intubation device, a tube down my throat, essentially to help me breathe throughout the surgery. And I woke up and this was in my mouth still. And so I couldn't speak and my eyes weren't open yet, but they were saying, oh, that was really touch and go. Interesting how we had to put in the male length for that. She has a really long neck. And I was thinking to myself, I have a really long neck. They're talking about me. This is really weird. But still in and out of consciousness and away from my body in a sense, going, they're talking about me. I can almost see me in the bed. I'm here, but I'm not here. What am I going to do about this? Am I going to be here? Am I coming back? And there was a sense that I wanted to see my baby. I couldn't remember what she looked like. I couldn't really remember had I had a baby when I was waking up. And the first thing I saw then was my husband's face, and I could tell that something big had really happened just due to that reflection of his feelings and his emotions. I was like, what's happened here? Do we have a baby? Am I alive? What's going on? Yeah, but a sense of also deciding in this kind of sliding doors moment, do I come back? That there's still a purpose. I have something else I'm yet to do, whether that is the mothering of my child or almost purpose-led, driven decisions that I'll make with the second chance that I'm given.
Let's go back to the out-of-body experience. I believe you did mention that you were floating above where you were being worked on. At that moment, were you awake or you were not awake? Not
awake, no. Put to sleep with anesthesia and then knowing, here I am I going to stay? And feeling very detached from it. This is me, but this isn't me. The sense of your body almost, this is a break from the physical self. There is still some spirit that carries on, is the sense that I got, and almost a relief from, there'd been a lot of pain in the labor for me and in the delivery phase. I was very tired. So this was like relief that I could have a resting in peace, as they say, that this would be a peaceful place to be if I were to go and stay detached from the physical body.
You mentioned earlier that you had a decision to leave or stay. Was that communicated to you or was that a gut feeling? How did that happen?
Almost feeling like my memory of it, that this was communicated to me. What are you going to do, Rebecca? Do you want to come? Do you want to come with us up here or wherever that other realm might be? Or is this a place that you need to do more? And I felt I can do more. Like, actually, I don't want to go yet. So there was a change from this is peaceful. This could be the easy almost way now. I could just go, and it almost is in my mind, in a memory of it. It was like, what will I do if I get a second chance? I'm going to have to be a really good mother. I'm going to have to really make the most of everything I'm given if I stay. So there was this kind of bargaining. If I stay, I will do these things and make the most of this life that you have left to live.
So this dialogue that you're talking about right now, was that internal or was that perhaps communicated telepathically by another being?
Yeah, so I'm feeling like it's a being that has no shape. I don't have the answers of a clear, this is what it looks like, but it was talking with that light. So not just that in a dialogue that one has on a daily basis, but perhaps more talking with, if you let me stay, I will do these things for you outside of myself. So talking to this other spirit or whatever we want to call it, whatever your belief system is. And for me, it probably came back to an upbringing that did have a Christian underpinning. So perhaps I'm going to call it God. Okay. So then it meant that I did some things that perhaps people who know me might have been surprised about, that I got my child baptized. I thought, we've made it through the first 6 months. I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm going to do some things that kind of help me appreciate that and have ceremony and being thankful. Yeah.
What you're talking about sounds somewhat consistent with what's called a life review, where it's telepathic and it's as if someone or something is asking, how do you think you did? Was it anything like that or not really?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And feeling like, how have I done? And it was like, not enough yet. You've done okay, but not enough yet. So we're reviewing this life you've had. And I almost felt like some of it had been too serious in the last few years leading up to the birth. It was like, you go and live your life and have more fun was some of the message I received, that this life is not just for hard work. What do we look back on? And if you ask people who are in those last years of life, it will often be, I wish I hadn't worked so hard and I put more time into my relationships or things like that. So I felt like it was giving me this message that what is life about? And maybe you haven't prioritized what's important yet. Those kind of messages is what I got out of that, perhaps as you call it, a life review. And it wasn't until a year or so later that my husband gave me a book and it had the near-death experiences in the title or whatever. And I went, that's what I had. I didn't know that's what it was.
The average length of time between the event and when you actually disclose it to anyone averages about 10 years.
Well, we're hitting that mark.
It's often because you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to lose your relationship, your marriage. And this is a body of work. It's not my opinion. This is what I've heard again and again. The one other question I had is during that, I guess what you would call the life review, did you feel like you were being judged or you were more judging yourself?
I don't feel it was a judgment, but perhaps I was judging myself. It was warm, friendly, not judging me for what I've done or not done, but saying, what do you want? What do you need? I'm here to support you, which was such a blessing to experience that this is not an all judging, all powerful kind of God figure, but more of a, when you get to that time, again, when the time is right, then it will be warm and comforting and almost going back to the childhood you that just had a connection with that without any dogma or other layers of people have told you what spirituality should be.
Any other memories, either childhood memories or things of that nature, did anything like that come up?
I think things came into focus. What is important, perhaps a little bit of family memories from childhood and knowing that my mum was going to be coming back to visit me soon once I got out of this scenario, that she was nearby, that attachment figure that's been there from your own birth and throughout your life you have memory of, even if they've passed on. That was important to me. I wanted to see her when I woke up again and maybe tell her how important she is to me, that life is finite and that she will not be here forever. So appreciate her and that cycle of life, me becoming a mum, but perhaps helped me go back and forward in time as a daughter. And some other strange kind of things that popped in and out in the memories was I was lying there so peaceful in the intensive care unit. I was there for a couple of days and going in and out of sleep phases and thinking about what I'm going to call my daughter as a name. And there were some nurses who were standing by my bed and talking about me and saying, doesn't she look like an angel? And I was like, I feel like an angel right now.
Let's talk about the aftermath. What are the first things that you noticed that have changed for you?
I would say there was an intense period where on top of becoming a mum, looking after a baby while also trying to make sense of my experience was quite overwhelming. There were things I wanted to process and make sense of, but there's not a lot of time to just navel gaze when you've got a newborn. So it took me some time to really make sense of it, to process it and talk to others. But I had this intense expectation on myself to make the most of my life and to do very well as a mother. And that kind of was a double-edged sword, or not the best attitude to have. So it took me a lot of time to grow self-compassion for the imperfect mess of motherhood, and that I needed time to heal as well, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
Since you had the near-death experience, has that changed the way you look at, let's say, like the afterlife, or if we are eternal beings, things of that nature?
Yes. I would say from this experience, I'm not afraid of dying now, and that helps me live more. So, yeah, I think there is an afterlife, in my opinion, from my experience, that I'm not as scared to enter, and it will be beautiful and it will be comforting. And it was a break from perhaps the pain from physical bodily experiences as well. And I don't know what's next. Perhaps we do come back. Perhaps that spirit is eternal and we get to enter another physical body. I don't know, because I didn't quite reach that state. But yeah, I don't feel afraid.
It sounds similar to what I hear from people that work in hospice, especially if they're mediums or intuitives, where they've actually described a greeting party for that person about to cross over. There's relatives and friends that have passed on that are actually waiting for them. And that's very similar to the comfort that I think you got a glimpse of. You didn't get to the waiting party because you didn't get that far, but it sounds like it's a similar feeling.
Yeah, like a coming home, and it's okay, it's safe. I would say that. Yeah, so that the hospice experience you described.
It's important for other people to hear that too, because most of us are deathly afraid of that. So it's good when we have an experiencer that actually didn't quite make it to the greeting party, but got pretty damn close. So it's definitely important. Now, you are a rhythm to recovery trainer. So what actually inspired you to get involved with drumming therapy? What was that?
Yes, so I've been a musician for a long time. My whole childhood, I loved music, but I hadn't done drumming per se until I was in my adult life, and I came across drumming circles, and I had this therapeutic underpinning, being a counselor, and I found with the rhythm to recovery model, it's partly reflective discussions facilitated by someone who's trained to do that, and also drumming, so that we come together as a group, have an altered state can happen, a kind of group consciousness that we start beating our hearts in time, and then speaking our true, authentic selves happens more easily after we've connected through music. So it was a beautiful model that I came across, developed by Simon Faulkner, an Australian practitioner. And I have just loved how it brings out spiritual conversations very easily. And we don't feel afraid of it once we've connected with people deeply enough to trust that this is okay. We're having a circle where true and deep meaning comes out.
Has that changed the way you approach doing that type of work since you've had the experience?
I think I'm very careful to keep things safe for people around discussions of grief. We might be asking people questions in the group and someone will say, rumble if, which is a game we play essentially, but rumble if you've lost a child. And suddenly the room will almost be silent because it's a deep discussion, but then people will rumble and say they've lost a child. And then they can feel connected with others who've lost a child. And that can be from miscarriage to a child that was born and they got to know, and people just start having these deeper conversations, and it's beautiful to witness and keep a safe container for these discussions where people often feel so isolated.
So it definitely did help in that respect then. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, on that spiritual level, I can hear a pin drop when someone opens up that crack to, this is my true sense of what's important to me, and I don't get to share this in many spaces. So when we have that sacred space that are built through some safety and some guidelines at the beginning and confidentiality, then we can start talking about the real stuff that people find important.
So all in all, what are the most important takeaways for yourself and for other people that need to be aware of these experiences?
I think being aware that people may have had these experiences. I work with people, we talk about their problems. It's often focused on day-to-day issues or relationship issues, workplace issues. If we go right down deeper, what has happened to you in your lifetime? What are you dead scared of, as you say. And sometimes it is. I'm not living fully because what's the worst that could happen in an anxiety situation? It's that they're afraid they might die. We can talk about these things openly, and I don't feel afraid to talk about them with people. And they can sense that with me, I think, that there's no-go zone around life, death, and everything in between.
Hopefully there's been enough cases, documented cases of near-death experiences where people that have had them are a little bit less hesitant to come forward and talk like you did tonight. Because it does take a certain amount of bravery. If I had one, I don't know if I'd be able to talk about it on a forum like this, but I give you a lot of credit. It's good stuff. Rebecca, thanks for joining us tonight. And for anyone who's listening, if you've had an experience like that and you want to talk about it, you know where to find us. In the meantime, speaking of finding Rebecca, how do our listeners find you online?
You can find me at RebeccaRylands.com. That's RebeccaRylands. And also on Instagram, my handle is at Rebecca Rylands.
You've been listening to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. In the meantime, you can find more information on closertovenus.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.